Hey guys, this is John, and I'm back playing Computer 4 Impossible once again. This is the third game in our match, and I open with d4, they respond with d6, a flexible move. I'm going to play knight f3 and try to keep it in semi-closed territory. I could have played e4 and gone into a Pierce. Okay, now f5. I don't think Computer 4 Impossible plays with an opening book, meaning it doesn't have pre-programmed lines in the opening that it just spits out, so hence it does interesting stuff like d6 and then f5. Okay, I'm going to play g3 and go for a Kingside fianchetto. The computer got the best of me in the last game, right at the end. I think I was holding my own throughout, and then it outplayed me in a rook endgame. But I'm enjoying these games because it really puts me to the test. Like, my technique is very much tested in these games. So b3, I'm going for a double fianchetto. Plays knight e4. So kind of fires the knight into the center right there. I'm not going to challenge that knight quite yet. For now, I'm just going to try to complete my development. Knight c6. Here I might challenge the knight. I might play knight bd2 and just offer a trade. In playing knight bd2, I would block my queen from defending d4, but I think it's okay for now. Knight fd2 would also be a way to attempt to get at that piece. But I think I could play knight bd2, and then let's say they castle, maybe play c4 thereafter. Yeah, d4 is defended sufficiently by my knight on f3 and the bishop on b2, so let's play this one. Yeah, now I was thinking c4, because if I take, pawn takes, I guess I could play knight g5 then, attacking the e4 pawn twice with my knight and my bishop, but they'll play d5 and defend that pawn on e4. So I think this is all right. Possibly with an eye towards playing queen c2. Okay, so the computer just trades. Maybe now they're going to play e5. Pawn e5 remains to be seen. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so taking is one option, but I think black has a nice pawn center after that. Let's say d takes e5, d takes e5. I could also play d5 and kind of close it up. That's generally the type of position you're going to do better against when playing an engine versus open positions. But again, I don't want to let that influence me too much. I should just focus on playing objectively the best move each time. But yeah, I think d5 might be the way to go. Because d takes e5, I don't see how I'm going to pressure that pawn in the center. It just looks like they've achieved e5, and I won't be able to attack that pawn further. I could also just keep the pawn tension, play a move like rook a d1 or something, but that gives the engine the option to advance e4 and attack my knight. So probably d5 is what I should do. Let's play that. Knight back to e7. Now I think long term, since I have a pawn chain from a2 to d5, stretching from the queen side to the center, it's sort of like a King's Indian structure. I maybe want to play on the queen side, like prepare c5 at some point. I don't think I'm too concerned about their king side activity yet. That's something to watch, but I think overall I should be able to handle that. Knight g5 is intriguing, trying to work into that e6 square perhaps. Knight g5, let's say h6, knight e6, forking the queen and the rook. Bishop takes e6, d takes e6. Just have to make sure my e-pawn doesn't get stranded in those cases. It's kind of dynamic. But yeah, that e-pawn could become a problem. I might just want to do something like rook fd1, reinforce d5, and again look to play that c5 advance somewhere down the line. Or maybe rook a c1, maybe that's a better move. Looking to play c5. So rook a c1 is something like f4. I don't see any particularly dangerous follow-ups like knight f5 maybe, but now this is completely reasonable, so let's do it. And f4 is played. So there's a semblance of a kingside initiative for the computer. Not gonna lie about that. Maybe knight g5 is a better option now. Knight g5 looking to get into e6, because if I can destroy that light square bishop, get the engine to exchange that light square bishop for my knight, maybe it reduces any potential attack they have. Also, I can get my light square bishop free. I like the fact that they played f4 in regards to my light square bishop, because now e4 can never truly keep this out of play. If that pawn was still on f5 and they played e4, this bishop would struggle to enter the action. But now knight g5, I wonder... I'm putting the knight on an undefended square, so I got to watch out for tactics, but knight takes d5, trying to enable queen takes g5 doesn't work, because I take on d5 with check. So let's say knight g5, knight f5, maybe knight e6, bishop takes e6, pawn takes e6. Do I have to watch stuff involving bishop h6? Maybe. Yeah, because bishop h6 could be a sneaky way to pressure me on the diagonal now. I could take f4, but they'll take with the rook. Could also play c5 and just go about my plan on the queen side here. There's also c5, e4 to consider if they want to counterattack that knight. I'm kind of leaning towards knight g5. I'm just not entirely sure. There's also e4, try to keep their knight out of f5, but that shuts in my bishop quite a bit. Knight g5, let's say knight f5. Maybe I can take on f4 in that case, though. Okay, let's try it. Computer just captures. So is that an indication that they want to play for a pin with bishop h6? Possibly. Yeah, that's probably what they're going for. H takes g3, bishop h6. And that piece is looking semi-stranded. So maybe I should take with the f-pawn, looking to trade down the file. Yeah, let's do it that way. Got 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Once again, the time control is 10 minutes with a 10-second increment throughout. Knight f5. So we've transformed the position a little bit. I'm very concerned about the possibility of bishop h6, though, because now the queen is joining the attack on the knight. What am I going to do about that? If e4 attacking this knight, I think they will play that. I think they're going to play bishop h6. And if h4 trying to defend the knight, then knight takes g3 is possible. So this pawn would be undefended. I can't really move the knight. If I move the knight, bishop h6 is happening all the same. With a skewer on the queen and the rook. Not a simple task to defend this. g4, same thing, bishop h6. I could try maybe knight e6, bishop takes e6, d takes e6, bishop h6, and then something like queen d5, looking to play e7. But I think they can refute that, like maybe knight e7 after queen d5. What if I move this rook so as to meet bishop h6 with bishop c1? Like say I play rook ce1, and then bishop h6, bishop c1. That might be acceptable. Okay, I'm going with that plan. And we'll do this. 4 minutes remaining for me. Okay, the engine just develops. I'm in a pin here. I mean, this is a little uncomfortable. They can't ever move that knight. Bishop d7 is just completing their development. Maybe I should play rook f2 and then rook ef1 hereafter. Bishop e4 is also possible, kind of a blockading move. Let's do this. Yeah, now I might want to play bishop e4 just to make sure they can't play pawn e4. Because if they played pawn e4 and I was unable to take that pawn, then e3 would be a big threat. And I think this bishop is not bad in a blockading role on e4. What about bishop e4, knight d4? Do I have grounds to be concerned about that? Or should I just play rook ef1, and then if e4... I can't take, because if I take on e4 with the bishop, then bishop takes g5, is removing the defender. If I play pawn e4 right now, then they get knight d4 in, and that's just a monstrous knight on that square. I can't ever kick it out of that outpost square with a pawn. So let's do this. Knight d4. Yeah, now I got to watch tactics on this e2 pawn. This pin is killer. Pin on that knight. Yeah, if I double up now, I think there may be knight takes e2 in the future. Although actually, double up, no, that should be fine. That should be fine for now. Okay, let's do that. But there's maybe bishop h3. Here, bishop h3. But then I can just trade everything. So rook ef1, rook takes f2, rook takes f2. That's fine for now. Rook ef1, bishop h3. I think rook takes f8, rook takes f8, rook takes f8. Queen takes f8, let's say. They'd be threatening mate on f1 then. So maybe queen e1. I think I have everything covered there. It's a little scary. Bishop g4. Bishop d3 then. Yikes. The thing is, I don't know if I have too many good alternatives to rook ef1. I mean, h4 is weakening that g3 pawn. Might be a necessary move, though, somewhere soon. So my main candidates here are h4 or rook ef1. Really would like to avoid playing h4, though. That's a last resort move. Okay, I'm going to do this. Bishop g4. Okay, so that move was played directly. Yeah, I'm all sorts of pinned up here. So I can trade off all the rooks on f8 if I want. That relieves some of the pressure on g5, and maybe I can play bishop d3 at the end of that sequence. It's not a perfect solution, but it may have to do. Okay, let's do that. Rook e1 is possible. Rook e1 is so passive. Assign the rook to defend the pawn. Yeah, and also that just loses material. Rook e1, they have a capture on g5, and I have insufficient defense on this pawn. I might be losing a pawn no matter what now. Yikes. Okay, let's take here. Queen takes, yeah. Problem is how to defend this guy now. Because if e3, bishop takes g5. So maybe I have to play bishop d3, but I think I'm just losing a pawn. Because my queen is overloaded, it's trying to defend e2 and also g5. So let's see. Like bishop takes g5, queen takes g5, and now they can take on e2. They take with the knight. Yeah, that's especially bad for me because now I have to take if king g2, queen f3. So I have to take. But then bishop takes, and there's mate on f1, which I can't even parry, actually. Yeah, I can't get my queen in a position to defend. I can't block. It's opposite color bishops, but I don't have a defense. Yeah, and if h4, there's queen f1 and king h2, queen f2. I'll play that move because I think it's practically my only move, but yeah, I'm going to be lost now. King h2, queen f2, and they're going to get me on a light square. Like king h1, bishop f3 is mate. So let's say here, Now bishop f1, and then followed by h5 on the next move. Or actually queen e2 is checkmate. I'll just demonstrate that. Yikes, I got destroyed this game. 28 moves. That was difficult. I mean, when the computer started getting me with f4, and then I made the decision to play knight g5, this play that they generated on the Kingside came rapidly and savagely, and I didn't have a chance. I mean, my position out of the opening was pretty reasonable, but yeah, this whole plan of f4 followed by knight f5 for the engine really had me on my back foot. Knight g5, take, take. It's possible I'm just much worse, especially after I get into this pin. But the thing is, after knight f5, right here, I don't know if I can avoid this bishop h6 move whatsoever, because even if I move the knight, as I was saying, like knight e4 or something, there's bishop h6 coming regardless. So a nice Dutch game by the computer. I tried to play solidly. You know, this double fianchetto system that white employs is a fairly reliable way of proceeding against the Dutch. But I didn't get much. I mean, here I made the decision to play d5, trying to keep the game closed. If I take, I just wasn't really impressed with this, although there is this queen d5 move, check. There might be some theory from this position, actually. Now I'm recalling some stuff I've looked at before. Queen d5, and the point being if they trade on d5, then this knight has to move, and I can go attack the e5 pawn. So I'm hitting it twice with the bishop and the knight. Black doesn't have to trade queens. They can play king h8. Because in that case, I cannot win a pawn, because if take, there's the in-between move, the intermezzo, queen takes d5, and then say c takes d5, now take here. And black is winning a piece. So maybe that was a better option. Maybe d5 is just dubious, because black has a pawn structure that is seen in the King's Indian. I was drawing a parallel to that opening, and it's good in the King's Indian to have this. And I think my queenside play needs to be further along than it is. I need to be ready to play c5 and open it up. I mean, maybe I could play c5 here. And if d takes c5, play knight takes, because my bishop joins in the defense of this pawn. That might be possible. I wasn't sure if something like e4 could punish me. This pawn is hanging in a lot of cases. But maybe bishop takes g7. If they take here, I can take here. But then they do get to take g2, attacking my rook. Yeah, and I would come out down in this sequence. King takes g2, let's say queen takes f8, and they have two minor pieces against the rook. There's some tough issues to solve regarding the central tension, whether to close the position, open it, whether I want to play for a queenside play or try to defend against the engine's attacks on the king side. I'm definitely going to go back and analyze this one a little bit more, probably throw it on the Lee chess analysis module too. Yeah, I think my position after knight g5 and the capture on g3 and knight f5 is already pretty poor, because this knight is stuck. I had ambitions to jump that knight into e6, but those never materialized. One line I was looking at here was knight e6, bishop takes e6, d takes e6, bishop h6, skewering my queen and rook, and now queen d5, so that if bishop takes c1, there is e7, discovered check, winning their queen. But the move I didn't like here was this, knight e7. Blockading the pawn and simultaneously attacking the queen and keeping the attack on c1. And I wasn't sure I was going to escape this without material loss. Maybe there's queen takes b7, but let's say rook takes f1, there's rook takes f1. Let's say rook b8 maybe. Rook takes f8 check. Queen takes f8. This could be murky. A bit. Yeah, I can play rook f1 here, actually. because my bishop is controlling the b7 square, so if black were to simply take on b7, I could take their queen and then recapture here. And I'd be coming out just fine out of all that. This line was sharp, though, and I just didn't quite have the time nor the courage to commit to it, commit to calculating it and perhaps even playing it. But maybe I should have looked at knight e6. I mean, given the problems I had with the knight, this is probably the one opportunity I had to play this move. Because from this point forward, I never got that move in. Let me go back to that moment. So right here after knight f5, I played rook ce1. The engine played bishop h6, bishop c1. Looks like I got everything guarded. Now they just developed. And then bishop e4. But I really had trouble with that e2 pawn. Knight d4. I can never play e3 because they play bishop takes g5, and this pawn would be pinned. The attack on the queen. So I doubled bishop g4, pinpointing that weakness. And then after the trades, yeah, I think I'm losing material now because my queen is already overloaded, defending g5 and also e2. Nice example of a overloading theme. Bishop d3, take, take, knight takes e2, check. If king g2, there's queen f3, checkmate. Same with king h1, there's queen f3 or queen h1. So I must take. And now queen f1 is the threat. And I have no way I can get my queen onto a square to defend that. And I can't block along the f file. He controls the f4 square, so I can't put, like, for instance, a bishop there. And you saw the bloody conclusion. h4, queen f1, king h2, queen f2. I'm running away, but I'm getting checkmated very soon. So if I were to try to pinpoint where I went wrong in this game, possibly this d5 decision's dubious. Black might have an easy game after this. If I do play d5, I think I have to follow up faster, like perhaps c5 right away. Also, maybe this moment here. I might have some narrow way I can play this to keep it interesting, like knight e6. I'm just not sure about the ramifications of knight e6, bishop takes e6, pawn takes, and then bishop h6, whether that queen d5 move is working for me. Because after this, I think rook ce1 was too passive for the circumstances, and I had everything defended, but I have almost no play after this. And that pin along the c1, h6 diagonal kills me. All right, so we went down to the computer. We're bloodied but unbroken. I'm still going to give this engine another shot and hope to get back on the board pretty soon, because currently it's leading us half to 2.5 out of 3 games. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll be back soon with another video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.